So good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm Mike Biddle from Innovate UK. I'm Deputy Director for our fund portfolio. But the reason I'm here today is that I'm passionate about innovation. We talk about the fact that we're going to have to rebalance the economy. We want an economy that works for everyone. Well, I reckon if we're going to do that, we need to change some things. If we're going to change things, we need to think innovatively. And as an example why I think innovation is important in everyday life, I'm a man of a certain age. I recently had one of those appointments where you have to go and see the nurse and they go through and it's like, well, actually, you're not doing too bad, you're eating quite well, blah, blah, blah. What are we going to do about your BMI, Mr. Biddle? Thought about that for a moment. I'm going to grow taller, I said. Now, apparently that wasn't the right answer and I've gone for the old-fashioned approach, but it just goes to show that even in simple everyday questions, there is normally an alternative answer that maybe that won't work, but let's try some things that won't work and see where it gets us. And those ones that maybe do work, let's try and make them go a bit faster and go a bit bigger. So that for me is what I think the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund is about. How do we make things go better, go bigger, go faster, but also build along the way and address some of the things that we know that we need to do differently. So Ruth McCarnan and Philip Nelson, they'll be here later, and thank you as well for the welcome from Jane from ESRC. So what this just goes to show how important this is across the research councils, across Innovate UK and across government. This really is one of those things where it's a chance for us to make a difference. Now, a problem shared is a problem two people have. In this instance, problem shared is a problem we all have. So you're here to help us today to try and refine this thinking. That means it's not all fully formed, but that's why we're here to talk to you. We're talking across the country to get the input. So thank you to start with. Thank you for attending at short notice. I also said thank you to Southampton in that all the other workshops around the country will be thanking them because they were the first guinea pigs. You're now the third workshop and we're doing this all around the country. So we are learning a bit, but we will continue to make things better. So thank you for your patience and thank you for working with us. It's important to recognise that not everyone can be in this room. So this room's actually, we've got this morning, we've got sessions this afternoon, like I say, sessions all around the country. We had about 3 times over subscription when we closed the registration. So there's your partners in your organisation, there's partners in other organisations that you work with, colleagues and friends, I'm sure, that couldn't have been here, but you're here to help us gather that data, gather that thinking, and this is the start, not the end, and you're helping us to shape what is currently best current thinking. I'm sure it will change, and I'm sure it will change because I'm sure you'll help us to improve it. So we're here today, we're going to talk under Chatham House rules. So for those who don't remember, it's that participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers, nor that of any other participant will be revealed. So we're not taking pictures today so that you couldn't then identify who had said what, but we are trying to get all of your input in a way that you feel most comfortable in sharing it. So we're then not going to say that Professor Blogs from Acme University shared this and it's the only way forward. We're looking for your input as a collective. So please approach it in that spirit. So I'm going to talk you through what the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund is, how we've got here, what some of that best current thinking is, and then also what we need from you today, how we need you to help us. So it's important to say the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund is just one part of the industrial strategy. It is not the entire industrial strategy. So the press is talking about that there'll probably be announcements next week. We'll see what comes. But I'm here today talking about the orange box, and that's about how do we maybe put the programs around the things that will help us build an industrial strategy. So important words on here is that it's industry-led, powered by multidisciplinary research and business academic collaboration. And then it's also about industries that are fit for the future. So it's not just more of the same. It's about us trying to think, this is our chance to do things differently. We're at a point of change in this country, and we have a chance to harness that change and to do things big, better, and to make the UK proud. And it will be about making the UK the world-class leader in research and commercialisation. So this is very much at the R&D, research, development, innovation part of what will be the industrial strategy, but it's not the entire thing. To show the importance, the Minister did actually sort of give us, he knows all these workshops are happening, very, very supportive. colleagues from across government are in this room today and are actually joining us at the various workshops. But here you go, world-leading expertise in research and innovation. How do we take better advantage of that, is what the Minister's saying. And how do we make sure that the UK remains at the forefront of innovation for years to come? So that we're not just doing this, we're actually making the impact as well. We're not doing it for the sake of it, we're doing it because we deliver economic impact. So, how does this thing work? Well, it's going to be delivered by Innovate UK and the research councils, hence being in this room together at the minute. And it will be delivered by UK Research and Innovation once that's formed and starts from April of 2018. It will be industry-led, powered by multidisciplinary research and business academic collaboration. Keep seeing those words coming through. It's at the heart of what this Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund is about. And then what's it going to do? Well, it's going to help UK capitalise on its strengths. So how do we talk about it? Let's harness them. Let's be loud. Let's be proud. And let's go and win in the global market. And we're going to do that by supporting business-led collaboration with coordinated research office, bringing that together, making those connections. Innovation isn't linear. So it's not just about that one thing that will go all the way through. It's going to be a bit murky. It's going to be fuzzy. But we need to allow a programme to come together to build things and address these big challenges, which we need to identify and recognise that those challenges will probably cut across boundaries of research. And then finally, it's about focusing on potential to transform those existing industries and create entirely new ones. So some of that stuff that we already know in the research base, some of those early stage ideas in small, medium enterprises, or even the part of the research lab in a large corporate, what are those bits that are actually going to change the way we do things over the next 5, 10, 20 years? But we're going to need to recognise that we deliver impact from that. It can't all be jam tomorrow. We're going to have to show the politicians, we're going to have to show the public that we can deliver value from that. So this is part of that long-term commitment at the heart of the industrial strategy, and it's important on us and our colleagues across the country to grab the value from that. So story so far. Prime Minister announced it. So Theresa May announced back in late November the fact that we were going to be putting this extra money into research, development and innovation. I'm not going to read this out word for word. All of this information is available on the web. Read her speech. Obviously, there was another speech yesterday, but just goes to show the importance of this. It's recognised that the most senior part of government that we need to harness this. There are several areas that she picked out in her speech. That doesn't mean that they're the only areas, and we're talking to you today about the challenges that we think are being developed, and even those aren't necessarily the only ones, and we're looking for your thoughts on what other challenges may be. But it gives you an example that some of these ideas are in the lexicon and are in the political thinking. But it's about research and development in a number of priority technologies. So around those challenges, what are the things that we can do that are different? So that was then followed up with the autumn statement on the 23rd November, and that's where they actually announced the money. So it's £2 billion a year in that fund by the fiscal year 2021. Now, some of you will have heard of a number of 4.7 billion as well. It's the same number. The 4.7 billion is the overall fund. The 2 billion is the spend profile in the year 2021, and it starts in 17 and it ramps. So we're not just talking about funding next year, we're talking about sustained commitment of funding that grows. So that's important, but it also means that it's important that you help us to make the case for where we should be investing that money wisely. Because if we don't, it could quite easily be used elsewhere. We need to show why it's having an impact and how we're doing things different. There are other areas that were mentioned in that speech as well. You start to get a bit of an idea about some of the areas that they're thinking of. More on that later. So where are we in terms of best current thinking? Well, right now, we've had some discussions. We were talking to business already. We were talking to academia already. The whole of the innovation landscape. So some of the thoughts that we had and Research Council colleagues had, we've kind of harnessed that together into what was the briefing pack that you've received ahead of this workshop. So what we've done is use December to assemble that together. Remember, this was only announced in the autumn statement on 23rd November. So the reason this feels quick is because we have had to move quickly. What we're now doing is using January and February to refine some of that thinking. Does actually what's been capture the exact mood and the exact requirements of what we need to do? Or is it a case that we actually need to refine things, or some areas are stronger than others, or some areas haven't been covered and need to be? So that's why we're here. We're going national. We're trying to have those conversations around the country. So this is a session in London. We've got more to come. Leeds on Friday. We've got Liverpool next week. We've got Birmingham and Belfast to come, and also into Cardiff in the middle of next week. So we're going around the country. We're talking to businesses. We're talking to researchers. We're also talking to the local enterprise partnerships, devolved administrations, and all of this is being covered because we need to bring this together. People talk about the fact that we need to cover the country. We also recognise that place is important. If we're going to have an economy that works for everyone, if we're going to rebalance the economy, we need to get our heads around that as well. And that's part of what we're doing over the next little while. Then we will be refining those very specifically in February with colleagues in government based on your input. So we'll be taking what you've helped us to develop over the next couple of weeks, reflect on that through February, and then in March, we're thinking those first challenges will be announced. It might not be lost on you that in March there's a budget. 8th of March is the next budget, maybe around that, I don't know for sure, but it's that sort of timing we're working to. So once again, thank you for reacting and helping us at short notice, but it's this timeline that's driving the pace, so that we can then publish delivery plans in April for how we start. And it's important it's about starting. This isn't, this is the start, it is not the end. And there will be more future years to come, and we'll cover that a bit later as well in the wrap-up. So then you get to what is a challenge. And actually, that's one of the other things that we need you to help us with. What is the right level to set a challenge at? Here's an example. It is not a perfect example of maybe what we're trying to do with the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, but it starts to be a bit specific. It's the Point of Care Diagnostics Challenge, which is in the Longitude Prize. Now, I'm not saying that's the model that you should copy for everything, but it's not just that we're trying to have a vague aspiration that we want to double the size of the UK industry in a certain technology area. I'm all for that, don't get me wrong, but in some ways that's not a challenge. We need something that resonates with the public. I keep hearing that word across Whitehall. What's the thing that will resonate with the public? Because if we can resonate with the public, it makes it easier for the ministers to sell, and it also means that we can actually have the impact and get the whole country behind this fund. So how do we do that? What's the things that resonate? So at the moment, we're at 8 challenge areas plus 2. So bioscience and biotechnology, so that sort of bio end of things. Is that the right name for that? Don't know, we'll see. And that goes for all of them. So if you've got thoughts on that, please do share them. Leading edge healthcare and medicine. Manufacturing processes and materials of the future. So the fact that we do need to rebalance the economy and we need to make things, continue to make things. Let's not forget we already do it. Well, 10% of UK GVA is already delivered through the fact that we make things through our manufacturing base. New energy technologies and battery storage and grid technologies kind of makes sense in the new world that we're going to have. Quantum technology, so this is probably really now at the cutting edge of where some of that science and research is being taken forward, and how do we harness some of that investment that's been made by the public purse and really start to innovate. Robotics, artificial intelligence, including driverless cars and drones. So, starting to think about some of those things. Some people may have seen that I used to have the word automation in. That's not in there now. We see that probably more of a fit with the manufacturing side. So robotics and artificial intelligence. Satellites and space technologies. And then the transformative digital side of things, which also includes supercomputing, advanced modelling and 5G. But there's quite a few things that are in there. So that's the 8 that have currently got momentum across Whitehall at the moment. We think at Innovate UK, and the research councils think as well, that there's another 2 that we think are important. Integrating sustainable cities and technologies for the creative industries. So we're looking for your help to make the case for why they should be areas that we should be addressing, and what are the challenges that should be addressed as part of that. Now, there might also be an 11th. What's that? And if you've got thoughts on that, talk to us about that so that we can capture some of that. A lot of the structure we've got today is around exploring these 10, but we are trying to provide room for you to allow for new ideas to come through. But, just recognise that at the same time, we do have some exam questions we're trying to answer. So we've got a bit more detail on those 8 areas plus 2. I'm not going to go through that line for line, but that's available in your packs. You should have had that, I think, in the pre-read information anyway. But it's just, this is where we're now starting to capture about what's that high-level articulation of that challenge area. And then within that, and you've seen that in your packs, there are then specific challenges which are trying to get into and what is it we need to do? What's the thing that will resonate with the public? So what do we want from today? Well, and what do we want from the workshops around the country? Well, we're looking for you to listen and contribute. So, listen to your partners. We've all got our thoughts, and we want to understand those thoughts. There is a structure behind today to try and capture that. If at some point you feel that you don't know quite where things are going, rest assured there is a structure. I've got a piece of paper in my pocket. It says so. It's fine. We have table facilitators. They will walk you through this. But do recognise that it's about trying to contribute your own thoughts, but also listening to the thoughts of others. Because what we're looking for is for you to help us to look at the patterns. So how is it the thing that the person next to you, what is it the thing they said that actually connects with what you're trying to do? Or maybe potentially it connects with one of the other challenge areas as well. How do we look for those patterns? How do we look for the fact that we can then address those across the UK? Here's that word again, resonate. Help us capture the challenges in a way that will resonate with the public. And again, this can't be some vague aspirational thing. It needs to be something tangible, something crisp, something you could talk to the person on the bus about, something you could talk to them in the pub about, something you'd be proud of, something that resonates. So then we can then take those, build a compelling case for government. They're looking for ideas. They've made the money available. We need to go out there and show how we're going to work, how we're going to deliver it, and how we're going to spend their money wisely. Because if we don't, they'll do something else with it. But it's there for us to win. We can then validate and improve the challenges we've got. There is room for new. The structure of the workshops, you might feel it doesn't allow that. Let's just make sure it's written down. If we've got them, we can work them up. There's a structure we have to work to. Maybe you don't carry around the market value for a certain industry in 2035 in your head. I get that. So we can maybe work up some of that detail after. But let's make sure we don't lose those ideas. And then, as I said, we're going around the country talking to local enterprise partnerships, talking to the devolved administrations. So we're doing some of that. If you can continue to help us with that as well. As I said, there is a structure. I'm not going to go through this now, but this is what we're building towards. And you will fill this in by the end of the day. Might feel a bit bumpy, but like I say, there's a plan. We'll get there. Don't worry. There is also a bit that we've learnt from other workshops. As we go through this process, we're looking for you to vote on things. Now, using the word vote is carrying a disproportionate amount of importance, I think people have started to realise around the country. Don't worry about it. What we're looking for is something that gives us an indication of what's good or what isn't or what could be improved. And ultimately, when we get to the end of the day, when you are given your sticky dots, what we're looking for is what are the ones that actually do resonate. And if that was put out as a challenge, my company would be right behind that. My university would be right behind that. My research and development organisation would be right behind that. That's what we're looking for. It's not the fact that one got 5 dots and one got 3 dots to the one that got 3 is nowhere. It's not that. We're not in a competition today. We're not. All of these 8 plus 2 are runners and riders as we see them. And if we can make the case for all of them, and maybe they won't all happen at once, but we've got time. The fund ramps. So these are the strong areas that we think are important. They can all be successful. So we're not trying to crush anyone else's ideas. We're trying to build our own. And when we get to that voting, all we're looking for is an indication of what you think is important and that you would get behind. So these are the questions that we're trying to help our colleagues in Whitehall address. So what's the evidence of the potential global market? The reason that we're working from these draft challenges is we've done some of that homework for you. So if you think some of that's violently right, that's useful to know. If you think some of it's missing, capture some of that as well. But we do need to work out what is the global market for some of these things. Let's have evidence so that we're not just convincing ourselves and believing ourselves because it's self-fulfilling prophecy. But let's really be happy that we can make the case that there is a research strength and business capacity in this area, that we would do something that would make a difference. And that now is the right time to do that, to deliver social and economic benefits. The two come together. But notice that's an and. We can't just do social good and not deliver money to the economy. We need to be growing the economy, so do recognise that. But there's an important and there. And that when we, as I said, the voting bit at the end doesn't carry too much significance, but it does give us an understanding of that there is appetite, a business commitment from the research base that they will get behind these things if government support's made available. So that then, when they are made available, nobody's concerned that there's going to be something left on the shelf and no one's going to address that challenge. So that's the plan we have for today. We'll talk you through in a moment the exact details of what's going to happen in terms of structure next. I've been trying to keep this short and sweet, give you an overview of what's going on with the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. As I've said, it's one part of the industrial strategy, it's not the entire thing. I'm not proposing to take questions from the floor now. I want to get us out into our groups and working. I'm here all day, I'm available. There are other people here to take questions as well. So if you've got specific questions you need to answer, talk to me, talk to others, work through your table facilitators, and please continue to work with us and help us. We'll be a lot better off with your input. So thank you.